we turn to him in life, we can have salvation, eternal life through that, just like we would eat bread. And he's showing you what's similar about that. When he says this, I am the door. Well, we know he's not a door, but he is an entrance to heaven. He is the only entrance. Jesus is the only way. Everybody got that? Now, notice, though, they translate the door, and they translate bread, I'm the bread, or I'm the true vine. Well, we know he's not a vine of grapes, right? Well, this word here is the same thing. It's a metaphor, but it's translated different ways by different translations. But the word literally means to wag your tail. Now, I talked about my German Shepherds last week, and I have it happen all the time. My big German Shepherd, she's almost 100 pounds, and we live up in the mountains, and so they're always going crazy. They don't like coyotes coming onto our property, and they let them know, hey, bark, 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 bark. You don't belong here, and their hair goes up on back, and their tail goes out, and they go after them. But she got in trouble this week, and once again, you can tell by a dog's tail what it's doing. It got tucked underneath, and she came up and going, oh, I'm so sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to do it, And both of them do that, but Lexi was the one in trouble again. And then when they're happy to see you, man, she has a tail as big as a tree sometimes. I mean, that whack, 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 knocks our grandkids over if they're standing there and that. And just huge. And so this word, if you check Sino up, if you get a lexicon and you look at original language, it'll tell you this. It'll say a dog wagging its tail. Now, I wanted to point out, if you don't translate it that way, then you're not translating it, you're interpreting. When you say, well, you're disturbed. That's how a lot of them translate. You're disturbed. Well, it doesn't mean disturbed. It means to wag. When I was a kid, they used to say, there was that idiom that we have in our language. He said, well, it's okay for the dog to wag the tail, but not the tail to wag the dog, right? That's meaning that something that's smaller wagging something that's bigger. You follow me? Have you ever heard that phrase before? And they would say it, I remember them saying it at our Bible college. They didn't want some of the minutiae, some of the small things to be dictating what the college does. They are there to train people in the Bible, and they didn't want sports to wag the tail. You follow me? They didn't want sports to become the big important thing, and then Bible college not the important thing anymore. And I remember them using that. They say, well, we just don't want it to wag the dog. Now that's where this becomes important, and I say that again just so you understand translation, and then this word. Look at, to which no one be wagged by these tribulations. Tribulation is the word pressure or pressing, and he's saying this: don't let the pressures in life control you. Don't let it wag you. And that's what we do wrong, is we let them wag us. We get thrown around. We get wagged around. We get thrown around by events in our life. We have a phrase, we say, the carpet was pulled out from under me, right? And it controlled you. And that's our idiom for that. But we can't let these pressures in life control us so much that they throw us off spiritually. You're going to have things happen. You're going to have events take place that are horrendous, that are troublesome. You're going to feel like somebody stabbed you in the back, right? That's one of our idioms. They didn't actually stab you in the back, but we know what it means. And so you're going to feel like you have all this pressure and all this problems, like it's just so hard, and if you're not careful, you let that affect you spiritually. And Paul is saying, don't let these things wag you. Don't let them control you. Don't let it throw you around and beat you up. Hang in there. Okay, that was review from last week. Now this week, verse 4. So we have verses 4 through 8 this week. For even when we were with you, we were telling you before that we are about to suffer tribulation, and it happened just as you also have known. So he says, wow, we've gone through tribulation. Remember, the word tribulation is the word thalipsis. It's the word found in Matthew 24 and Luke 17:21. In the book of Revelation, found many times. It's the book that means that, it's a word that means this. It means to be pressed. It means to have pressure in your life. Do you have pressure in your life sometimes? Say, man, I have pressure from bills. We have pressure from so many activities. I don't know how we can fit them in. We have pressure from somebody sick in the family. Mom gets sick. That's terrible. Who's going to cook? Mom gets sick. Well, who's going to pick up after us? Oh, it ain't going to be me, right? So, I mean, all of a sudden, mom's sick. It's a disaster. There's pressure in the family. So that's what this word means. And he says, you know, we were about to suffer. We told you. Listen, all the way through the Bible. And I think God gave us Thessalonians. Much of this, you've noticed the last several weeks, has been about us having pressure. And so what he's saying is, deal with it. Don't let it wag you. He said, we told you about this. And he says, look, he says, just as you also have known. He says, you know that you're going to have pressure. See, when you get saved and come to Christ, it doesn't mean God removes all the pressure for your life. It doesn't mean that God removes problems from your life, but he gives you the ability to handle it. He gives you the tools to handle it. And sometimes he even gives you authority over it. That's the best one, huh? Yes. When you can have authority and say, down spot, out spot, get out of here. And that's cool when that can happen. But he doesn't promise that. He doesn't promise that he takes away all the pressures, but that he will be with you. And lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. And he promises to then guide you and provide 1 Corinthians 10:13, a way of escape. So we know we're going to have pressures. Verse 5. Because of this, I also can no longer roof over. And we're going to explain that word again. I sent to you to know your faith, lest the tempter tempt you, and our labor will be in vain. Roof over. Now, I translated it literally because sino is the word in the original language. It means this. It means to roof. So if you're going to put up a roof, that means that's sino. Follow me? That's what the word. Now, if you don't translate it, roof over, then you're not really translating it, you're interpreting it. You're saying, this is what I thought they meant, so you put in some different words. Let me tell you how roof over means. When you have problems and you want to cover them up, you're going to roof over it. Just follow me. You say, well, it's a problem. Well, we'll just roof over it. I told you last week, we decided right here we have a leak. It leaks all the time. Every time we have a big rain, it leaks right here. We decided we're going to roof over it. And it's going to cover it up. You follow me? So he says, we can't go around always covering things up with a roof. You can't have issues and you say, well, we'll just cover it up. We'll just, have you ever ignored things, hope they go away? Like your neighbor, your husband, Some of you ladies laughed about that. Dave, I saw her, she laughed. Okay, so you roof over it though. And that was a metaphor. It was a comparison of how you say, well, we've got something going on, and you just, you cover it up and ignore it. Well, so what he says now, I also can no longer roof over this. I can't keep doing that. And roofing over it. So I sent to you to know your faith, lest the tempter tempt you, and our labor will be in vain. Wow. Now this is what he's been going after for part of last chapter and now into this chapter. This is his concern. You know what I'm concerned about? Is that the devil, Satan, he uses satanos in this, which is Satan. He says, has tempted you, and you fell away. Now, believe me, this is a serious issue in the churches. is that people get tempted and fall away. I don't know how many times we have seen this happen. And a variety of things. Sometimes it's been finances. Sometimes it's been a job. And it's so much, they just fall away. They're gone. Sometimes it's a conflict. We had a family where all of a sudden the dad died. Family never came back to church. They fell away. Took them out. We had another family, police officer, and the husband. The wife was the police officer. The husband, they lost a child and never came back to church. They were done. Couldn't handle it. He says, I've been so concerned. We labored. The word labor here is the word kapas, and it means this. There's different words for labor and work. To work hard at something would be ergao or ergon, and it means you worked at it. This word means you work so hard you're fatigued. You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever worked that hard? Maybe you haven't, but if you've worked that hard, you're so tired at the end of the day, you're just worn out and fatigued. He said, well, we worked so hard, we were fatigued, we were worn out, but I'm afraid now that it was in vain. There's 3 different words in the original language translated vain. This word is kanas, and kanas means that it's empty. You come up empty. You pour it into the bowl, and now you look in the bowl and it's empty. It had a hole. You've done that with your bank accounts, huh? Done that with your car. You put gas in and you go, how did it disappear? Well, he said, the sad thing is, he said, people fell away. They got tempted. We went through the Bible 3 weeks ago on a verse when talking about Satan and that in the text. And I went all the way through the Bible of how Satan works. Genesis chapter 3, remember? Hath God said. Hath God said you shall not touch, or you should not eat. And so it questions, he gets us to question God. Job, remember what he did to Job? He killed his children. That's a pretty bad temptation, wouldn't you say? And then he took all of his possessions. They were all stolen. The house fell down. And then he personally, physically attacked Job that he had boils breaking out on. Remember all those things? So Satan can tempt and he can attack. Now, what the word tempt mean doesn't mean like we think sometimes, like he did to Jesus. After 40 days, obviously you're hungry after 40 days of not eating and fasting, he said, here's some bread. Wow, now that's a temptation. But here what we have is pyradzo is the word, and the idea is that you fall. Dakimadzo is a word that's used sometimes, but that's that you get approved. So one is trying to try you and see, hey, are you really made out of stuff? Are you really going to make it? Because we want to approve you. You follow me? That's dakimadzo. Pyradzo, again, is a word, wow, we want to, this is a temptation because we're hoping you fail. We hope you mess up. That's what the tempter is called, the one who would tempt you to fail. That's what it's saying here. And again, what he's saying so strong is, I couldn't contain myself anymore. I couldn't roof this over and just cover it up and ignore it. He said, I had to find out, are you guys still there? Are you still doing okay? And so the question I'll ask several times today and in other verses too is, if a Timothy shows up to your house, to our church, and he starts looking around and say, oh, where's the people that used to sit right here? Where are they at? Where's the people over here? Where did these people go? Things happen. And he's going to report back to Paul. The question is, how many people will stay and not fall apart when the temptation comes? Because he said, The previous verse, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer. Nobody here probably likes to suffer, right? But we're warned over and over in Scripture, we will suffer. It will not be easy being a Christian. It will not be easy if you stand for your faith and you're real. Today, I'm telling you, they're going against us more and more. It's like all the problems we had with the city. By the way, we did get final approval. They're gone off our property. They left. And the strange thing is, they showed up, and I was called by one of the teachers. He's here. I walked out there into the parking lot. He got the slip of inspection slip. He signed it and didn't even come in and look at anything. He just left. So it's just kind of strange. Well, you're going to be tempted. Let me tell you a little story. They do this one in sometimes recovery type classes, because where the devil's going to tempt you sometimes is in your weakness. He knows where to hit you. Be sober, be vigilant. Your adversary, the devil, prowls about like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. 1 Peter 5:8. So he is going to go after you and prowl and get you like a lion gets you. He's going to hide in the grass. So there's a story that kind of says that you have to be aware of this and how we give in at certain points in our life and times. We give in. And so it's a story saying, well, it's somebody you could say is a diabetic or that, but they know they're not supposed to eat all the sweets. So they say, okay, I'm going to the store, but I'm not going to buy any candy. As a matter of fact, it's Saturday night, and they have that urge. You ever have that urge? You go to the refrigerator, you open it up, you close it. Go to a cupboard, you open it up, you close it. Go to the pantry, you open it up, and close it. I have all three of those. I do all three of them. I'm looking for something. And I'll say, Mary! Don't we have anything to eat in the house? You ever do that? Okay, what do we have for sweets? You ever do that one? I know Oscar does that. Yeah. And so here's that Saturday night. And you say, well, okay, I'm going to go down to the store, but I'm just going to drive by. You drive down there and you stop. You say, well, I'm going to get out and I'm going to go in the store, but I'm not going to go to the candy section. I'll go to someplace else. And so you get in there, got your shopping cart, and for some reason that puppy goes right to aisle 12 in candy. And say, okay, I'll look at the candy, but I'm not going to get any. Next thing you're fondling it. Oh yeah, oh baby, come to Papa. And so, okay, well, I'm going to buy it, but I'm not going to eat it. So you buy it, you get in the car and you go home. You say, okay, I'm going to open it up and smell it, but I'm not going to eat it. So you open it up and you smell it, and then you eat it. See, we're our own worst enemy sometimes, aren't we? And we take little steps like that. How many times have you said, I'm not going to do this, and you do it? Thank you. Bless you, my daughter. So, what Paul is, and this is a big thing. He's saying, I couldn't, imagine the Apostle Paul saying this. I was so concerned about you, I finally couldn't roof it over anymore. I couldn't cover this thing up. I couldn't pull back. I had to find out if you guys were still there. He didn't have a cell phone. He couldn't tweet you, couldn't Facebook you, couldn't email you, couldn't, check anything out. They had to do it the old-fashioned way. He's going to send Timothy. So when Timothy shows up, how are you doing? How are you doing? Or has the tempter taken you out and you're just gone? I've told you many times I went to Helix High School, and they had a great sports program. They still do. And they have great athletes that come there. A lot of guys go out and go into professional sports even. A lot of guys go into big colleges, and they come right to the school and talk to you and that. Some of the guys who were some of the best athletes, I mean tremendous athletes, they never made it. You know why? They got taken out because they got a girl pregnant. Really? One of the best wrestlers in America. High school was third in the nation. College, and he was in high school. Taken out. Other guys taken out because of their drugs. Taken out for something in their life. One of them just had to get a job, and he chose a job over a future career. One of my close friends, first year in college, first game, he runs a halfback. Now, if you get men know this, his first game, he ran 250 yards, rushing, one guy. That's a lot, by the way. If you get 100 yards, that's big. You know what I'm talking about? His first game as a freshman in college, 251 yards, I think it was, and he quit. He never played again. And his problem, he was a goof-off. A goof-off that could run like that. But be careful. Paul says, I don't want you to get taken out. I can't roof it over. I just have to find out, are you going to make it? So my friend, you've got to hang in there and make it. Stick it out. Verse 6. But now after Timothy came, so that's how I knew, I said last verse, we know it was Timothy. But now after Timothy came to us from you and told us good news of your faith and love, and that you have always remembered our goodness, earnestly desiring to see us, even as we also you. It's exactly the way it should be translated. Now look at what Timothy does. He comes back, and he comes to your house. He comes to our church. He comes to us. And he come back. What report is he going to give back to Paul? And his report was this. This is the good. His report is, well, we got good news about your faith and love. First thing, good news about your faith and love. So, if you're going to make it here and you're going to make it with God, there's going to have to be good news of your faith. You think of some of the most important things in the Bible. Faith and love are right at the top of that, right? Your faith in God and trusting God and your love. Love God with all your heart. The greatest commandment, second like unto thee, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. These are big commandments. He came in and says, man, their faith and love is up. It's good. But I want you to say, remembering, are always remembered our goodness, even desiring to see you, even as we also you. They remembered. How's your memories? How do you remember things? You know what I've noticed something? You have people who are doing good, their memories are good. Follow this. You have people doing bad, guess what? Their memories are bad. Now, how can I say that? I don't care how much you help someone, and you'll find something out in life. Sometimes the people you help the most hurt you the most. All of a sudden you hear some story, well, yeah, they did this to me. And you go, what? We gave them everything we had. We helped them with food. We gave them money. We bought them gas for their car. And all of a sudden they're talking trash about you. Have you ever had that happen? Well, me and Tanya have. It happens. They do it at church. We help people and you give, and then finally one time you don't, then all of a sudden you're a bad guy. And so your memories a lot of times tell you what's going on in your life and what you held on to. Right? Memories tell you what you're hanging on to. I've talked to some people, all of us had some bad days growing up, right? You ever met somebody who's been weaned on a dill pickle and raised on sour milk? It's like all of life was tough. It's like they could hardly make it. You talk to them. Hey, you ever scratch your knees? You ever get stubbed toes and that? But some of these other people, it was so bad, that's all they talk about. What you remember of your past a lot of times tells you where you're at. And he said, you remembered our goodness. And so that's really important. Because I tell you what, I run into people sometimes, and I've had people come in and talk and say, you know, well, I always had a problem with you. I go, no, I didn't know that. What's the problem? And I said, well, you know. No, I don't know. What's the problem? I still, to this day, thinking of this one person, do not know what the problem was. And so, your memory is important. As a matter of fact, if you start thinking scripturally now, then I want you to think biblically and think like God thinks. You go through about your memories in the Bible, and they are supposed to be good. And you're supposed to remember the right things. I challenge you, read the Word and see what it says. Verse 7. Because of this, brethren, we were encouraged by your faith on all the tribulation and in our distress. Verse 8, because now we live if you should stand in the Lord. Back to verse 7. Okay, two things. The word encouraged here, man, that word is translated many different ways in the scriptures, but it's a word that means all of it. It either means to encourage, to help, or to comfort. When you come up with the word comfort, a lot of times it'll be this word, paraklesis. Now, the thing is, what it means so fundamentally is this, to come beside somebody and help them whatever they need. When the parakletos, which is a personage, that's the Holy Spirit. And it's translated comforter, helper, or it can be encourager again. But it's usually translated one of the other two. This it means here that it says, we were encouraged by your faith, and by the way, the word means to come beside. If I didn't say it clearly, you go up to somebody, and whatever the situation is, that's what you're helping them with. If they need comfort, if they need encouragement, if they need help, they need a pat on the back, you're providing that. And so he says here in this text, well, we're encouraged by your faith and all the tribulation. In other words, the way you handle things, you're doing great. So the question is, how do you handle things? Do you throw pillows? Kick the cat? Slam the doors? Do we have any door slammers in here? You know, do we have anybody that yells, screams, cusses, gets mad at other people, takes it out on things? Because he says, we were encouraged by your faith and the way you handled the tribulation. And then I want you to catch this one. And how you handle our distress. Now, what's that? And in our distress, I'll tell you what it is. I'm looking around. Kira, you in here? Michaela? Okay, we're safe. They're my two teenage girls. Two in the same house. Pray for me. Because we have what I call, we'll call today that teenage girl drama. They become these drama queens. I mean, one of them will go, oh, well, Susie talked to Cherish. And Susie was just so rude. And I'm telling you, now Cherish won't talk to Susie, and I'm not going to either. You know what I'm talking about? You heard that one? And they do it with a swagger. I mean, I tell them, I say, come on, girls. Don't act. See, if you want to just look at this thing, if we just talk about a level of just being a mature adult, you teach your family, you teach your children not to act that way. Just because Susie's having a problem with Cherish doesn't mean that you have to pick on Susie. Right? Come on, we pick sides. But a mature person, as we grow up, we learn certain things. You want your families to grow up, right? So you grow up and you get a job. And because you make money now you can buy things. Now if you get bills, you pay for your bills, right? Come on. I mean, you want your family to mature, whether you're a Christian or not. But when you become a Christian, that's even heightened to the next level. God says, no man, nothing. Work. If you're going to eat, Neither should a man, if a man doesn't work, neither should he eat. And so you should, we teach our children that, and they grow up in that. Well, in our relationships, one thing we can do wrong is if somebody else gets picked on, we kind of pick up on that too much. And we join the side of the person who's been wounded, and we get mad at the other ones. First of all, you don't know the whole story maybe, but get this. He said, because of this, brethren, we were encouraged by your faith on all the tribulations and in our distress. Our distress didn't blow you away. You didn't get thrown out because of the tribulations that you had, but all our distress didn't cause you any problem. Listen, I've seen so many times somebody get mad, this person gets mad at this person, so this person will pick on this person because this person. You follow me? I mean, that might have been confusing what I just did if you weren't watching me point. But I see that happen all the time. Don't choose to join when somebody is hurt or they're suffering, that you suffer and don't handle it well and get wagged by it. That's what the text is saying. And that's what he's saying here. Don't pick up on some of these other things. So many times I've seen divisions in families, and it happens, and I find out that the family is having the old family feud, and it's the in-laws and the outlaws. And it never gets settled because they start picking sides, and they haven't matured in this. And so-and-so's not going to talk to so-and-so. Well, neither are they. And they're not going to invite him over for Christmas now. That hits home, doesn't it? And they're not having him for Thanksgiving dinner. And they're not going to invite him for a birthday party. Or they're not going to invite him to the wedding. Right? Well, that's what happens. And what we've done as a church, we try to stay out of it. Because we can never win. I mean, we don't. I've told the staff and other elders, I said, stay out of it. And they'll think then you're inactive. But no, it's not that. It's that we get drug into things that's not our problem. And so beware of getting sucked into other people's problems. Verse 8, our last verse, and we're done. Because now we live if you should stand in the Lord. When you see a should like this, these three words, should, may, or might, they translate the subjunctive mode. And the subjunctive mode in the original language tells you this. It says, this is not certain. This is only possible. So you have that occur some very important places. Here it's saying, well, we live if you should stand in the Lord, and we don't. So because of this word if, which does appear in this text, and you have the subjunctive mode with the if, it means this. It might happen, but we don't know if it will. You should do that, but we don't know if you will do that. So what he's saying is if you really stand in the Lord, man, he's saying we're going to really live. We're going to be blessed. Now, I was really concerned, and I couldn't roof over it anymore because I had to find out if you guys were doing well. Now that I found out that you're doing well, I am so relieved. Have you ever gotten good news from a foreign land? Have you ever gotten good news from another family? Have you ever gotten good news and it was so good you were blessed? It made your day? I called a guy in New York the other day and told him some things, and he was telling me, he says, man, Dave, you don't know how that made my day. I mean, I can't tell you. He told me like 5 times in the same conversation. So I took the idea. It really made his day, right? So you get good news about how people are doing, and it's such a joy because so many times we look around and we say, well, we're so-and-so. Well, they're not doing so well. Sometimes we don't even know what happened. But when you get good news, it says we're really blessed. Now, the reason I'm stressing this is we're just like Paul. You're going to hear good things about people, and it's really going to bless you. It did Paul. And you're going to hear bad things, and it's going to be a discouragement. But you don't let that discouragement wag you. That's the text. You don't let it take you out. As a couple verses before, he says, we came back, and the good news was that your faith and love still stands. You still have faith, you still have love. See, you're maturing. And for you to be a maturing person, this thing gets leveled out. And you become more of a level person instead of up and down, crazy, up and down, up and down. Up when people don't even know if you're up today or down today. Right. Look and say, well, how is she doing it? I don't know. Why don't you ask? So up and down, up and down. I had a guy that I was counseling a lot with, and I'm going to end with this story. And the biggest thing I saw that he needed is say, what you need to do is just settle down and just be consistent. Don't let this thing wag you. Don't let this thing control you. Don't let this thing, you get up. They were having problems in the family. I said, just be consistent what God wants you to be. And you're going to be fine. But we get all upset, and then something goes right, and we get all happy. And then something goes wrong, we get all upset. Then something happens, and we get all, something good happens, and we get all happy. And they see us just like this roller coaster, just like this up and down, up and down, up and down. And so the trick is not to let that happen to you. Be mature. And even if you think of it as a mature adult, you ought to make it that way. But as a Christian, it's all heightened that you're supposed to be mature and make it. Let's pray.